Good evening, Malden, and welcome to this edition of the Malden Zone. I'm your host, David Angelo, pleased to be with you. And with us tonight is MATV Executive Director Ron Cox. Ron, welcome.
How you doing, Dave? Thank you.
Thanks for coming on tonight. So the Malden Zone is a FracMat video production. We're pleased to be with you. We're the host every other Wednesday, every fourth Wednesday, Francis. We are part of the rotating schedule here. So for the first half of the show, we're going to be talking with Ron from MATV, and we're going to be talking about some of the usage policies that have come up for the Senior Center. There's a proposal right now in front of the City Council, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then the second half of the show, we're going to be with Chris Caesar. Chris is the editor of the Malden Patch, and we're going to be talking about some Malden issues with him as well. So, but with that said, we'll jump right into our first segment. Ron, thanks again for coming.
Well, you're welcome. It's great to be the first time on the Malden Zone.
Oh, wow, terrific.
Kind of cool.
Terrific. So now I think you've been on every show.
Every single show now.
We can.
I've even been on Reeling. And how'd that happen?
Well, that was good. You know, I walked in up there. I think that, what are they, 11 years or something?
At least, yeah.
It's got to be one of the most successful.
They are the longest running cable access show here in MATV.
Okay.
They've run the longest.
And that says a lot, because MATV has had some really good shows over the years.
They have.
So, Ron, thank you for your leadership here at MATV. You've been doing such a great job. And also leadership now on this issue that's come before the City Council that we've been debating, and that's the Senior Center usage policy that we've had come before us. And I guess I'll just give it a rundown, and maybe we can then start talking about it. So what we discovered over the summer, actually prior to the summer, and probably late May is when it first came before our attention. I'm on the City Council, City Councilor at Large, and I'm on the subcommittee, which is the Public Property Subcommittee. And one of the things that came before us was the folks from the Senior Center came in and said, hey, we want to start renting it out for additional things. And we said, oh, great, okay, let's start doing it. And during the course of discussions, we said, all right, well, you know what, let's see what the policies say. Can you bring in the policies? And they said, well, what policies? And we said, okay, well, all right, fine. Well, let's see maybe then, you know, what does the payment schedule look like? And they said, well, what payment schedule?
Okay,
so, you know, we kind of stopped and said, all right, wait a minute, maybe we should now try to look at a comprehensive way that we can put together some policies and procedures and rental agreements and things like that, documentation to go with the Senior Center, because what we're finding is it's getting more and more use.
Right.
And I think everybody agrees that we want to make sure that we keep the Senior Center as nice as possible. It's a great building, and we want to keep it that way. So in order to keep it that way, let's make sure that we have some policies for these users and the groups that are going to come in there. And let's try to cover some of the costs associated with it so that we can make sure that the building is maintained properly, right?
Right.
So, you know, some of the things we discovered was that we really didn't have these things in place. And what we did over the summer was the city solicitor, the City Council, the mayor's office, the community groups, all got
And
together.
Jean Benoit.
Jean,
part of it.
yes, the leader of the Senior Center, the acting executive director of the Senior Center, I guess. Everybody got together and said, hey, look, what can we do? So we put together some policies and procedures. We got, right now I think we're in process of, we have the set that's from the city solicitor, and then we have the set that's from the council and, the committee, the subcommittee, of which Councillor Kinnan is the chair. So I guess now we're at the point where we're trying to really come together. We had a proposal before the city council several weeks ago, and we were ready to vote it, and we went to vote it, but then it was tabled. So now we're at the point where, while it's tabled, let's kind of, reconcile what the groups need.
Let's take this opportunity to
needs.
really listen to really proposals and ideas. And what I like to start from really is going back to 2006. It just so happens it's the same year I came on as executive director of MATV, and it was a great year, believe it. But what had happened is Howard McGowan called me and he said, Ron, they're gonna build a senior community center, and I said, you're kidding, really? I want to be. He said we should get MATV involved and find out what's happening.
Sure.
So MATV was involved from the very beginning, talking with Christine DePietro, who was then the executive director of the Senior Center. And what we talked about really was a vision, what we saw for this building. While we saw the design of it and really contributed to the design of it, and MATV helped use some of our money to help put together the
control
room in the auditorium,
Sure.
set up the slide projector and the screen, and that was part of what we contributed to the building.
Sure.
As part of what we felt was a great way to collaborate with community buildings and the community itself. So the thing that came out of that was a vision for what we saw for that building. And you'll notice that it's called the Senior Community Center, not the Senior Center. Now, what does that mean? In my feeling, in my vision, what was discussed is that community part was very important because it was going to solidify that the building itself was more than just for seniors. It was a building that was going to be really part of the community.
Sure.
And really a focal point to the community. One of the things I've talked about many times in the past is Malden doesn't really have a public commons,
Sure.
a park where like Wakefield does,
Yes.
or other communities have as well, like Linfield and Winchester, I think, too. But what we do have is a senior community center. And I think as part of that vision, in my mind, was always that this building was kind of that commons where people can gather and do things, have events, have meetings. And the idea was, and this is where Christine DePietro was coming in, she felt it was helpful for seniors to be more part of the community by be part of this. So it was a benefit to the seniors. They would have a way to have activities going on that they can be part of that are more than just, I mean, they do some great stuff, exercising, knitting things. And
all kinds of classes going on down
classes.
there. If you haven't been there, it's a great
place.
place.
It's fantastic. But we felt that, why should the building close down at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, the way it does now, that by MATV being part of this process, we could help contribute to having it open late at night after hours.
Sure. And that's really, we've come full circle now, and that's where we are. So to be clear to everybody at home, what we're talking about with these policies and procedures and the additional stuff is after the normal business hours. We're not talking about during the day while programming is going on.
Okay.
We're talking about the extra stuff after hours. So, I guess to me, and that was very well summed up, Ron. So to me, though, what can we do to make sure we're bringing the community together? Because I definitely agree with what you're saying there.
Well,
it's a vibrant place.
Yep.
We want to bring people down there.
And I'll tell you, we went to that visioning study that we did years ago. And
Sure,
I think
up at City Hall.
Up at City Hall.
Yeah.
And also, just recently, that peace conference that you actually
The
part
Peace
of
Forum,
from the
Community
Rotary
Peace
Club
Forum, sure.
at the Y, MCA. And I'll tell you what came out of that peace conference. And again, it was really to talk about how can we deal with what was perceived at the time, is Malden getting more violent? Is crime growing? How do we deal with all of that?
Sure.
And I think one of the things that came out of that conference was how can we make Malden a dynamic place and revitalize it in ways that people go downtown?
Sure.
And the feeling was that having a presence downtown of people walking around gives a sense of safety.
Absolutely.
And so
and I would say more than give it the sense, it makes it more safe.
It is safe. Exactly.
It makes it more
it's not even a sense. It really is safe because you got other people walking around. You wave to them. You, hey, how you doing? And
let's face it, people are going to programming at the community center are pretty good, viable folks.
That's right.
That are going there. So this isn't the
so the thinking was this becomes that one of those jewels that anchors in the community that people come to.
Sure.
So how do we utilize it better? Well, we open it up to the community after hours, and so I think in terms of bringing this up to date, what was the other part is in setting policy. The city council pretty much came to the conclusion that first and foremost we got to protect the place, and I think there's where the insurance aspect got nailed down. So that was kind of separated from the other part. Was let's get that taken care of first, and the idea was by having the insurance taken care of, essentially mandating that any group uses has to have insurance. Some are against it because some groups don't have insurance.
Yep.
But there were some city councils, and I do appreciate, I think it was Greg Lucy and some others that said that there's ways for groups to be part of an insurance collaborative or some consortium that those that can't afford insurance can probably join that, and there's ways to deal with that for small groups. And I appreciated the council doing that because I think anything that we can do that facilitates the idea that small groups can use it, and if they don't have insurance, how can they get in there?
Right.
And we appreciated that.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's very well said, Ron. I mean, so really what we have here is we have two separate issues. One is a liability issue where I think everybody agrees before. We just weren't covered.
Right.
And so we got to make sure we have some level of coverage there. And we're working on that now. Again, Councilor Lucy, I think, is getting much closer and getting some type of resolution of that because we don't want to shut anybody out because they don't have insurance. And there's certain groups that just aren't of the size where they would have insurance.
Well, I think that's the other issue. In terms of the size of the group that uses the facility now, his ranges from you got a Girl Scout group all the way up to the ILC, the Immigrant Learning Center.
Yeah. Sure.
You can't. While they're both nonprofits,
right,
you can't combine the two. ILC, I just came from an incredible gala that they had, and they get donations, thousands of dollars, and
hundreds of
Diane
thousands.
Portney does a great job.
Fantastic.
So they're doing okay. The Girl Scouts, on the other hand, have you bought any cookies lately? You got to buy some cookies, help them out. But
smaller community
organization. Sure. So if they want to have a meeting, they're not going to have the insurance. So we've got to find ways that we can make it so that they can use it. And I think what I appreciate the City Council doing is thinking of ways through Greg Lucy and other ideas of how they can make that happen.
Sure. And one of the things I was impressed with was the groups that came before us. And we actually took a very unconventional move at the City Council that night. We usually don't let the public speak. I mean, that's more of a town meeting type of setup.
Or a public hearing.
Yeah, or a public hearing or something.
And it was interesting to find out that since it was a public hearing, thanks to the councils like you and others that gave permission, sponsored speakers, and that was very appreciated.
Well, yeah, but I really believe that we saw a nice level of discourse there.
Yes.
People came, they had some good points to make. It wasn't just people weren't just going for rah rah, and pounding the desk type of thing. They had good points, and I think we listened to those points, and we're going back and forth. So particularly on the insurance piece, I think everybody agrees. Okay, we all understand we have to have some level of coverage there. Now, the other thing, and the thing that I think is a little bit more contentious, a little bit more compromises.
I would say challenging.
Challenging.
And it's challenging because how do you decide what groups,
what
kind of rates
you're going to have? And that's it. It's the fee structure.
It's
the fee structure for, how are you going to be able to accommodate a group that has only 8 to 10 people versus a group that has 100 people and they're using it for a fundraiser.
You're right.
So one of the things that I've been working on recently, and I think we may have discussed this, but an idea that I have is maybe we could take a night out of the week and extend the hours and say this night we're going to be open till 9 o'clock and that will be community meeting night. So all the groups that need to hold a meeting, come on down this night and all the other stuff. Because remember, these policies are for extended use time only.
Right.
So maybe if one night a week we extend the use, this stuff becomes less of an issue. And when I say this stuff, I mean the fee schedule and the policies and some of the other procedures and stuff that would go on. So maybe that's an alternative.
Right. And I think the other thing that Craig Spatafora brings up, and this is another issue, and I do understand where he's coming from, but I still think the issue can be addressed, and that is how to decide what groups use it and don't use it and what can't. And he's got a concern. I think it's a valid concern, but my feeling is that I think you can have a criteria set as part of the policy. And what could that criteria be? It seems to me the first thing would be community groups that give back to the community. Number one. I mean, that separates other groups from, that don't give back and just all self-contained for their own needs and goods. So I think that could be a prerequisite, it seems to me, that they give back. And then I think the other thing that was discussed, and I think you even mentioned it, that for those that maybe can't afford a security deposit, which is something Gene thinks is very valuable, because by having a security deposit, in a way, that group is saying that we're going to take care of the place. We're going to be careful, and they're going to want the deposit back.
Sure.
So there's incentive to have
when money's on the line, people act a little differently. Right.
So Gene, rightly so, wants to protect the building itself and not have things be taken and broken and stuff. So that to me is one way to do that. So say a group maybe can't come up with either the fee or the deposit, something they can do for the senior center as a barter system of some kind of giving back.
Perhaps.
Mow the lawn, trim the trees.
Yeah.
Although we did lose some of the trees
inside
in the atrium.
There.
Yeah. It seems that I guess they were cleaning the leaves with something that needed to be washed with rain.
Yeah.
We forgot that there's no rain.
There's no rain, and
that's the way it
didn't
happened.
really. But all right. But that's a good point. So let's be sure to make a point to any of the groups watching out there, though. One of the things we did find out through the city solicitor, and some of the councilors did some really good homework too, is that we found out that we can't just give it away for free. That's actually against the law, and we might actually be hurting.
Really, it's against the law?
Yeah, it actually is, and it might be hurting.
Is Santa going to be arrested this December?
It might. We don't want to unknowingly hurt these groups and their nonprofit mission, right? So, I do like the idea of maybe an in-kind contribution where they're gonna beautify the outside, or they're gonna paint the inside, or they're gonna do.
Or maybe do a performance for the seniors.
Perhaps, whatever it may be, whatever we could work. I think that would be a good alternative, right? The other thing too is in terms of some people have spoken about. Well, we're not trying to have a fundraiser, so why charge us the same as a group trying to make a fundraiser? Well, maybe that's a consideration too.
I think it should be. I think that in terms of looking at the rates, it seems to me that there is a difference between having a meeting and having essentially an event that raises money. It just seems to me, and it's funny because I've talked to Gene about this. There have been some fundraisers where the senior center didn't get anything back from that fundraiser.
Right.
I'm not going to mention any groups.
Right.
But
and sometimes these groups aren't even from Malden.
Right.
So, and one of the other important things to consider is, remember now, if we're setting these policies are the same for everybody. We can't discriminate.
Right.
We can't say, oh, well, you're not from Malden, so it's going to be different. We have to be the same for everybody. So that's a little bit of a challenge too, because as much as we want to try to favor the Malden groups, the law says we really can't do that.
Really? You can't say for Malden groups only?
There may be ways that we can incentivize it for Malden groups, but to out and out say you can't do it. And there was a great example you used. Maybe you'd like to tell the folks about what happened at WCAT when you were at WCAT.
Okay. We say WCAT?
Wakefield Community Action Television.
It's been a long time since we called it WCAT, but that was the early
I
days.
remember from that.
I know, the early days.
Robin Haig.
But what is the thing about WCAT is obviously a building that is actually part of the school, is one of the buildings in the school system. And one of the first things that came up was, are we part of the school system? And as it turned out, we essentially took over the old auto body building that they had as part of the
Power
Wakefield
Mechanics.
High. Exactly. So essentially just gutted that out, and we renovated that and built that up.
From the old, what was it, the Dole Bear School?
It was in the Dole Bear School temporarily, and before that it was in it was one of those elementary schools I've already forgotten.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh my gosh, I was there every day. Here's the funny thing about that is my last thing I did over in Wakefield was I put together a grant for the senior center. What do I call it? The senior geez, I've forgotten that. It was a senior community workshop,
Okay.
a media workshop. So it was essentially showing seniors how to run media.
Oh, I see.
And it was so successful. Marion Whiting, who was the leader of the Senior Center at the time, she liked it so much she bought the building. So I left and went to Salem. My executive director called me back because I was program director. He calls me back, Ron, what did you do? They bought the building. We got to move. So he never forgave me for that. But
wait, are we breaking news? Are you buying a building to relocate
that'd be
MATV?
great. No. But that was what came out of that was how I saw seniors using the space that we had, and then they liked so much they end up buying the space. But what I think they did was they renovated the place. Was beautiful, and it became that very same thing that we have. Although I think ours is better.
Yeah, I think ours is better too.
Oh,
I've been to Melrose. Melrose is nice. Wakefield's
Saugus,
decent.
I've been to Saugus.
Ours is really.
And what's interesting is they all have various policies that are in place, and they've kind of solved different things. That's why I think it's good for us to look at other communities and see what they've done.
When we called around, we found out that we're pretty much the only one without this.
Right.
So, there is a need there. We're trying to fill it. We're trying to compromise here. I think we have a decent dialogue going. I would have preferred, and I said it that night, and that's not to say what we've talked about isn't good, but that night to me, I was like, all right, let's just get it up and running, because all while we debate this, we're not letting groups in there. So to me, I was like, let's put it in place and continue to work on it and refine it. Some of the other members didn't feel that way. It ended up getting tabled. So next week, I believe it's coming back.
Right, it is. Well, I think to give John Masterson a kind of a slap saying, I think he did the right thing. I don't think the city council was ready at the time to deal with it, because one thing we don't want to do, and I certainly don't think the city council should do, is speed this through without any thoughtful feedback from the community, and that's why I appreciated the tabling. Because I think you want to set a policy, and I know you've talked about it's going to get evolved over a period of time anyway. I know, and I appreciate that. But I really do think we should start with a policy that at least starts in a place that is really thinking of how can we best serve the community and protect the senior center.
Yep.
I mean, those are the two things.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things I think we left out is MATV. I think we should put a proviso in there. You folks are already committed to the master control over there and to some of the other audiovisual stuff. I would think we should be able to exempt out MATV.
Well, the thinking
because you're more of a permanent partner.
Yes, and I think of it as a collaborator. I think when I work with Gene, we really do collaborate, and when I was working with Christine the same way, we do collaborate. And I think one of the things and one of the challenges is going to be, she's got a certain staff that really isn't going to be available after hours.
Right.
So you have to say to yourself, well, how is the community going to do this? Well, we're right across the street, guys.
Especially for public meetings.
Exactly.
We just had the one that you taped on the resident sticker parking.
That's right. So, and helped Neil Kinnan with his little PowerPoint display, and if it wasn't for our computer, he wouldn't have been able,
I heard that
he wouldn't
from
have
Brian.
been able to do it. So
Brian
anything we can do for you, Neil, we're there.
Brian had told me about that.
Yeah. So that's why Neil, we want something back. So we're thinking that the opportunity there for MATV to help with, we have a large group of volunteers that we can help facilitate that use. And that's why I think somehow figuring out some kind of third-party agreement, however we want to work it, that as collaborators with the Senior Center, working with Gene, because that's the other thing.
You've been doing your annual meeting there.
We do our annual meeting there for the last 6 years. And
most of the debates have been held
there.
there.
Every debate was there. And I'll tell you, both the City Council debates the previous year, and then, of course, the city at large debates.
Yep, we had them
there.
The
mayor debates.
The mayor debates.
That city, that Senior Community Center is perfect because it was built.
It was built for
We've got 3 cameras there that one person can run.
You guys helped design.
We helped design it. And again, the other thing that we always felt is, and we talked about this with Christine, is one of the reasons we want to contribute is that by having this, what we call the Auditorium Media Center, is a way to look at it, is that it would encourage groups to perform if they could get, for free probably, if they could get a DVD of their act. And sure enough, more groups have performed at the Senior Community Center for a minimal cost because they know they can get a video of their performance, and that's incentive for them to not only perform, but to do it for less money.
Okay.
And that's worked.
Yeah.
That whole idea, I think I'd like to expand upon it because one of the things that I think we want to build on is having more seniors and more community people learn how to run the place, so that every group can be taped. Joe Wong did a great comedy act there that Gene Benoit got to show up, and he was fantastic comedian. He performed for free as a favor to Gene.
Is that a benefit for something?
It wasn't a benefit. It was just for the seniors.
Okay.
And he's an Asian comic, Asian American, and very funny guy. And his performance was fantastic. Filled the auditorium. There was no cost to any senior.
Which is just what you want.
It was just it was perfect.
I mean, I completely agree. I think, for the most part, and the councilors agree as well. I mean, I certainly do not, under any circumstances, want to prohibit any group or anything like that. Matter of fact, I want the opposite. I want all of the groups to be able to utilize it. But at the same time, I want to try to ensure that we're taking prudent steps to make sure the building is going to have the maintenance it needs, and the city is going to have the liability coverage we need.
Well, Neil's very clear on that. He brought the charter up and kind of waved it around to say it is the city council that oversees.
It is the city council.
All city buildings. And I do appreciate that, Neil, the reminder of that. I think, and that's why it's prudent for the city council to do this right.
We're trying to be responsible, and I think people appreciate that and they recognize that. And I'm hoping the groups that night recognize that we're trying to go through. Democracy isn't always the cleanest looking thing.
Right.
Sometimes it's like making sausages, right? But at the end of the day, I really think we're going to be able to.
Have you ever been to Chelsea and see them make shell sausages?
No, no, but I'm going to the Tri-Cap where they have Carl's sausage.
Oh, really? Oh, that's funny.
I went last year, and it's actually quite
that's
good.
Great. That's
quite good. Now I heard Carl's closed down though. Is that true? And they opened up a different spot?
No, I think that they were there. I just went by there 2 weeks ago.
Or maybe they opened up an additional
they
spot
might have.
too.
They might have.
Somebody was telling me that. So.
But I think this is going to be the challenge. To have rates that are equitable at the same time, bring in the idea that there are some who can pay a higher fee, and there's some that
have a harder
can't.
time.
Have a harder
maybe
time.
they can barter. Or
and
something.
I think to realize this and make it part of the policies that some of the fundraiser. Let's face it. If someone's having a fundraiser, it seems to me a portion of that fundraising money should go to the senior center. If they make a lot of money, a portion of that should go to the senior center. And I think that is going to happen where a really big group that is very good at fundraising, the senior center is going to make more money.
Yeah.
For those groups that aren't so successful and don't want necessarily a big fundraiser, but it's just enough for them. I mean, our annual meeting, we get donations. And it's not a fundraiser, it's just to celebrate our, every year we do celebrate it, and we ask for donations. We get credible amounts of food. People are asked to bring either a dish or $5, and we made about $200 just by $5 donations.
Wow.
So, and that that essentially paid for all the advertising for what we did. So, those are things that I think you look at the event and what's the event for, and if it's a meeting. It's just a meeting. It seems to me that
community purpose.
Community people are just
That's why
coming together to talk.
I think the extended hours may work for
Right.
that. If we could make, and that might be a nice thing too. On a Wednesday night, maybe talk to some of the local merchants and say, "Hey, what night works for you?" Maybe we coincide it with other meetings that are going on at the time, and again, driving people to the square because, as you said, after these meetings break up. A lot of the times they spill over into all seasons table.
When we used to have board meetings there. After every board meeting,
Francis, you get that?
Yeah, when we used to have board meetings there. After the meetings, we have 11 members of the board, and plus myself, and then we go out to dinner. Every board meeting, we've either gone to all seasons table, District 7,
Hugh O'Neill's,
and to me, just picture that happening almost, as many nights as we could possibly see happen.
Once a week for several groups.
Right.
Yeah, there's a little built-in economy right there. So, again, just to kind of sum up here. I want to work together on this. Let's try to compromise. We're getting closer. I think we're closer now than we were. I think we were prepared to kind of put something in place and let it evolve. But we tabled it, so now let's make sure we can try to improve it that much more. But I do want to get groups in there. That's why I'm hoping we can all kind of pull together here. So if you have any comments,
I was going to say,
please email me, email Ron. Let's get together. So get everything out, because one of the things we're finding out actually from these permit parking meetings is people are coming and they're saying, well, hey, have you thought of this? And we're saying, well, actually, you know what? No, we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, the more heads you have on something,
absolutely,
you get more ideas. And I think, for those groups up there that are watching it and feel they want to be part of this decision making, I mean, it's really up to the groups to kind of give ideas, speak up, and throw some ideas. I've been doing research with other senior centers, seeing what they're doing, so I'm bringing that to the table.
Yep.
Those are the kinds of things that, I do want to stress. It was called the Senior Community Center for a reason, and that was that the seniors are part of the community, and the community is part of the senior center itself. So that, to me, if you keep that vision, and all the city councils look at it in those terms, I think we're going to all benefit from that.
Yep. Likewise, I think we're going in the right direction. So, what else do we got? Do we have any summation here in the final couple of minutes while we're getting Chris ready for the next segment?
Well, Chris, boy,
Anything
I tell you, I'm glad you got Chris on for a guest. He's a really good guy. I love
He's
what he's
very
doing at Malden
informative.
Patch. Well, I think it's just basic. Show up, to support the use of the senior center, because that's what we're doing. And I would say, let the city councilors know where you're coming from. Whatever group is out there, send some ideas, suggestions. Like you said, Dave, it's democracy in action. What we have is our voices. And I think city council is willing to listen to those voices, but we've got to hear them. And the more we hear, I think the decision that's made has more input into it, and it would be put it this way, it would be a more community decision,
sure,
I would think, if that happens.
I definitely want consensus, and I mean, that's the one thing I do agree with the tabling is, if we need more to build consensus, then let's do that. I'm all about trying to find common ground here and get the best from all sides.
That's right. And let's give Ed Markey a chance to come down and give his views. I'd like to hear from Ed himself.
It is named after his family.
I know.
After all.
And Joe and Christina were very big fans of MATV too.
I didn't know that.
Oh, they were.
Did you know them?
I both know John and Christina. When she passed away, John says to me at her funeral, he says, Ron, she loved your show.
Really?
Yeah, I said, I never knew. Live on tape. I never knew that.
That's great.
So, and of course, Ed's been a big supporter of MATV from the beginning. So, as a tribute to them, I think they would love to see this building used the right way. And as a tribute to them, let's do it.
Sure. We'll get together.
Great. Dave, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you for coming on.
All right.
Appreciate it. Great to see you. I think we're going to have a roll-in here, Francis. We're going to have a roll-in. Ron,
right.
thank you for joining us. We're going to have Chris Caesar come up next.
All right.
All right, good evening, Malden. We're back. I want to thank again Ron Cox, MATV Executive Director, for joining us in our first segment there about the Senior Center. And now we have with us Chris Caesar. Chris is the editor of the Malden Patch, so we want to welcome Chris. Chris, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
We were on a couple of months ago talking about public safety with Jim Labby from the Salvation Army, so it's nice to have you back.
Thanks. Thank you.
Maybe you could tell us some of the things happening in Malden recently. I know we want to talk about some of the coming events and things like that. I think we're going to talk a little bit about the downtown plan. Can we get a shot of that over here, Paul? Our floor director, Paul. Here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about the downtown, some of the different things coming on. I know that Patch has recently reported that. I think is that up on your site now?
It is, but we really don't have much information. I know that you guys passed a couple RFPs last night to, I guess, relocate some city offices.
Yeah, some of that I am at liberty to talk about, and some of it I'm not, only because it involves some negotiations, and certainly we wouldn't want to jeopardize any of those negotiations, and I wouldn't want to violate any of the things we talked about in executive session, which is confidential information, which you can understand.
Sure.
How would you feel if we talked about your property without you knowing of it? So we could talk in generic terms about I think, as you reported, the mayor is looking to relocate, and he's made it he's basically based his first term on it. I think he's even gone as far as saying, he's made no issue about it. He wants to move City Hall, as I want to move City Hall, as you want to move City Hall, as you want to move. Everybody wants to move City Hall. So I think we all agree there. And how are we going to go about doing it? Now that's up in the air, and I think that's one of the things we could talk about. One of the things I appreciate Mayor Christensen's support on, and we're together on this, is this component right here is making sure that if and when City Hall gets moved, that we do put some type of linkage in from the MBTA to make sure that we can drive the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of passengers that go through Malden Center MBTA downtown.
It's one of the most frequented T-stops on the system, I believe,
yeah,
right?
It is. Yeah. It is. It's really very well traveled. So, how can we go about doing that? I mean, City Hall really just seemed ill-conceived from the start, and the older it gets, the worse it gets. I mean, now not only are we faced with a bad concept, but the practicality of the building is really challenging now. It's expensive to heat in the winter. It's expensive to cool in the summer. It's not very efficient. It's not very inviting. The spaces don't work that well. So it's got a number of challenges. And again, to echo what the mayor feels, that he really feels that our public deserves better for a place for City Hall. The employees in City Hall deserve a better place. And we agree. So we all agree. So I think, some of the, again, without violating any confidences, I think we could talk in general terms and say that he's looking forward to moving City Hall. And I'm sure when they provide you with the information, you can come back on and we can talk in more detail.
Sure.
But again, I think it's a good idea. We need to do it. It's with the project we're doing right now on Pleasant Street, I think it ties in. People maybe are starting to see that, okay, once this gets redone, this will look that way, and we'll have an opportunity to do some other things. And, then maybe the super fitness site gets developed, and maybe the ballpark comes in, and then Dartmouth Street gets redeveloped. And, one thing after another, and all of a sudden you have tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars being spent within a small radius of downtown. I think, people follow where the money goes, and developers follow the money. And, if all those projects happen and make the square that much nicer, make downtown that much nicer, I think then you can see the businesses that people want to see down. Because we already have so many good businesses down here.
Sure.
But maybe we can get a theater at that point. Maybe we can get some of the niche, cafe type of places that people are always talking about. Some of the other more known retail names and restaurant types of names, like chains and things like that. So, I think it's one thing at a time, one foot in front of the other. We're still waiting for the economy. The economy's still not raging away. So, I think in a way that benefits us right now, because we can kind of lay in wait, take advantage of some of the low interest rates, and try to leverage different parcels to be able to expand the downtown in a better way. There's another proposal for something near the Heritage lot. There's, of course, we mentioned the Dartmouth Street lot that's out there right now, super fitness. So there's a lot going on in a small area, and hopefully it can all work together.
I don't know if this is something you can comment on, but there were 2 RFPs that were passed. Why it seems like it's the same project? Why would there be 2? Yeah,
to try to answer that specifically. So I would say that they both involve private parcels that right now it's not appropriate for us to comment on fully, because they're negotiations. We wouldn't want to make your condo negotiations public, and likewise we wouldn't want to make a business owners that potentially the city could be in negotiations with. I don't think it would be appropriate to expose that. So I think the mayor is trying to go forward in the most prudent manner possible. I think he's talked about it for months. Really, all throughout his campaign, he talked about it as well. So I don't think it's any big surprise. But again, I think we need to be prudent in the way that we discuss the information, because it does involve property and transactions and things like that. And we want to be careful of all the laws and regulations that are in place, but also just operate in good faith to the people that we're trying to work with here.
So does that mean it's fair to say that you're in negotiations with 2 property owners right now separately? Is that why there are 2 agreements?
I would say that that's a possibility.
I see.
I would say, again, without
Sure.
giving anything away, I would say,
Right.
everything's in play, and the mayor has made that clear. He's looked at it, mayor and his team, which let's make sure we include Kevin Duffy, Steve Wachowski, Debbie Burke from the Redevelopment Authority, our city controller Charles Rannigan, the city councilors, and all the other entities involved. Everybody's trying to problem solve for this, and I think the previous administration tried for a number of years to solve for this as well. And if it was easy, it would have been done by now. These are very complicated things with a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different implications, and they're not just your typical, house transaction where you show up at the registry of deeds and it's sell in the morning, buy in the afternoon type of thing. These,
Sure.
these are very complicated proposals that are being put together here. So I think it's appropriate to give it all time, let it all flesh out. It all will come out in the wash soon, and eventually once things happen, once the RFPs come out, and I'm sure the mayor will come out with statements and things like that, and press releases to let everybody in on what's going on. So, but I did see it on the patch, so
What
I
can
think
say?
that's
Yeah.
you guys are breaking news ahead of me. Maybe you know something. I should be asking you the questions.
Well, I don't know about that, but and I guess another issue, crime, of course, in the city. I mean, there's been a lot going on in City Hall for that.
Crime has been a big issue. Fortunately, since the last time we met and since the last time we were on this program, it has seemed to calm down. So knock on wood. Let's keep that good trend going. I think you came to the Peace Forum, which was great.
Sure.
Thank you for coming. You
No
gave
problem.
us some publicity there, which I think helped. We had a nice showing for that. Again, the mayor took part in that. We had some city council support in that. We had a good buy-in from the community on that. We had Ron and MATV covered it. We had a lot of the groups represented, from the nonprofits to the business world. And really everybody came together and we brainstormed and we had some good ideas and we put some nice information out there. And the information I think was refreshing to some. Everybody was like, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a crime wave in Malden, but this data doesn't say that." And we're saying,
Right.
"But yeah, if you look at it from the long point of view, if you look at the data and look year over year, crime's actually down. But we've had some high-profile incidents. So, because those don't sit well with people, as they shouldn't, because they're very serious events,
Sure.
it tends to get, hyperbole tends to work its way in there and make it seem like, oh, everything's out of control, when really it's not. So, fortunately we haven't had any incidents, and I think that's a combination of a couple of different things. I think it's a combination of the summer ending and that whole environment is, kind of displaced a little bit. That's certainly part of it.
Right.
But let's give credit here to our police. Let's give credit to them for doing the sweeps and behind the scenes doing the investigations and really the man hours and again, give the mayor credit, give the city council credit for authorizing the extra police. We put extra police on, we hired them, we approved extra overtime. So really, we're working with other organizations and consortiums of other law enforcement. So really, we've done just about everything we can do to try to police this as well as we can. And I think that's made a big difference as well. So it's a combination of things that, fortunately, we haven't had any events, and let's hope we don't have any more. But let's face it, Malden's a big city. Malden is 60,000 people with 2 T-stops. And I'd love it if events never happened, but unfortunately, they probably will. That doesn't mean Malden isn't a safe place. I still feel very safe here. And I know you feel very safe here. We both walk around at all hours of the day and never had a problem. So,
Sure.
Overall, I think we're going in the right direction with that. So I'm very pleased by that, the action that we've taken, and the turnout, the way it's turned out. We definitely have it on the run right now, so which is a good thing.
And as you mentioned, the statistics, I mean, even in 1990, I think we had maybe about double the violent crime we do today in Malden.
Yeah.
And there was certainly a spike in the summer.
Right.
But, I mean, really, even nationally, it's just been going down for decades and decades. But the perception is going up, is actually going up for some reason.
Yeah.
But it's not always true.
Some of that may have to do with the communication. We've talked about this at length. As I teach communication up at Suffolk, I'm very interested in the way with which we're now communicating. And, think about the model years ago. Years ago, you'd have a reporter, and he would go on an assignment from an editor. And he would be on that assignment for a day or 2 days and do some research. And then he would come back to the editor. He would write his story. They would have a meeting on it. Then another editor would see it. And so by the time something happened till the time it was published, you're looking at 4, 5, 6 days, something like that. Well, now you're listening to the scanner, and 5 minutes later it's on the patch, and it's on everybody's phone, and everybody's following it. So now instead of once every day or a couple of days and somebody getting a physical paper and looking through it, now it's instantaneous. And it's 24/7, 365. So I think that, and everybody has Google Alerts set up, and everybody has news alerts set up. So the nature of communication, I think, has changed significantly, and I think that's got to be a part of it, right?
I think so too. Yeah, and I mean, it's not that people shouldn't know that information or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it certainly has an effect on what people perceive. I mean, I think the statistics speak for themselves.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. It does. It does. So, what else is making news around Malden? I saw we've had some incidents recently. What was that? Was there a coyote sighting or something?
There was a coyote sighting.
Was there a coyote sighting?
It was near, most recently, Forestdale School, a few blocks from there.
And what's interesting is one of the things I've learned out as an elected official is, there's packs of coyotes that go around and they make the route every night. They run through Holy Cross and they run all the way up to, I think it's like Linfield or something, and then they come all the way back. I mean, it's very sophisticated pattern. So, it's nothing new to Malden. And, I think we're handling it the right way. And, it's a story here or there. But otherwise, it's not major news. But what else major significant news do we have happening? We had the governor visit recently.
We did, yeah, at Salem Wood School, I believe, to unveil a new fitness center.
Fitness center, there. Which is interesting because he was in Linden earlier this year about, what was it, it's
Innovation
like
School?
Innovation School, which is a charter-like type of school.
Yes.
So he's been paying some attention to
Malden
Malden schools.
A lot, yeah. It's very strange, but he's been here a lot. It's a kind of cool program over there. It's going to be privately funded. There's no taxpayer money going into it. It's the governor's Council on Fitness, I believe, which started out in California under Schwarzenegger.
Interesting.
Just kind of a public-private partnership, and they set up these gyms in schools all over the country. The idea is to improve test scores and their self-esteem and that kind of stuff. And it seems to be doing pretty well.
Okay, all right.
And that should be opening, I think, sometime early next year at the school.
So you've been really out and about. You were covering the city council meeting. You were covering the governor. I saw you were on Channel 7 blogging from their set. Maybe you can tell us about that. You're like the king of all media now.
I don't know about that. I mean, it was just, we have a new partnership with Channel 7. We're doing content sharing with them, and hopefully it just means we'll be bringing, they have a helicopter. We don't have a helicopter. They can get us things that we might not necessarily be able to get, and likewise, we can get them things that they might not get. So
okay, good.
It's kind of a partnership there, and one of the perks is we get to take nerdy pictures of ourselves at the news desk and put it on Facebook.
Well, that was good. That was good. Made you look multimedia.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Good. And then, a lot of things going on, Patch. We have election coverage here that gets a lot of hits. I notice a lot of comments.
Yeah.
I try not to monitor the blog so much that you get bogged down, because then it's just you'll drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, you set the alert and it pops up and you notice and you look at some of the stuff. Maybe you can tell us how that's trending.
The elections locally, in what respect trending?
Well, we have Scott Brown as the big election, I guess, around here, right? We don't have anything for state rep or state senate or
no local stuff.
No local, hyper local stuff, but local in terms of mass.
Sure, of course. Scott Brown and Warren have both been here.
You were at the Scott Brown event. I didn't see you there, but you were. I guess were you blogging from there, or
I was taking video.
Okay, you were covering the event.
Yeah, okay. That was up in Melrose.
Yep. John McCain. That was a good event.
Yeah, John McCain. That was kind of interesting to see him out in Melrose.
I don't know the last time he's been in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It'll go to show you how high profile of a race that is.
Absolutely.
The United States Senate.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're saying that could affect the balance of the United States Senate.
And that's why you're definitely seeing big names like that coming into town.
Sure.
Yeah.
He just had Chris Christie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who's been out for Warren recently, though. Big name. There was. Did she have a governor or something? I'm trying to remember.
She had Max Cleland from Georgia come, I believe.
Yep.
Locally, like in the media, because I cover Melrose as well. I can't remember any bigger names coming to this area, but I'm sure elsewhere in the state and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't seen it really go one way or the other. It seems like people are kind of divided. I mean, it is, liberal state, but Scott Brown, I think, has an effective, moderate message.
Well, what is he? The second most bipartisan senator by votes.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think that helps him. That moderate appeal would help.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's why Warren is trying to make it more about, like you said, the national implications. This is going to affect the balance of the Senate. And, she's bringing in all the kind of war on women issues.
Yeah, which I don't know how fair that is.
I don't either. I don't either.
That seems like a just kind of, partisan politics type of thing. I think people might see through that.
Well, yeah, and then on the other hand, you wonder, he is moderate, but he's been, on the party line of some other issues too that might, alienate maybe more moderate voters or something like that. So it's...
Now, has Patch done any coverage on the ballot questions? Those are kind of flying underneath the radar a little bit, but those are 3 big questions. It's like, wait a minute, we already have a big election with the president, and then with Scott Brown, and then, depending upon where you live, maybe for Congress or state rep or state senate. But now we got these 3 big questions too.
What is it? Medical marijuana, euthanasia, and
the auto
thing. I never really understood that.
right to repair bill.
Right.
Which the legislature worked on that, but it could still pass. So if it passes, it goes even further than what the legislature compromised on the piece. So,
yeah, I've got to be honest. I've not been following.
So
that
Patch hasn't put together a question 1, 2, and 3 type of thing.
We did very early on. I actually didn't write the question 1. That was a colleague of mine. But we've had some discussion. And I mean, on the internet, I think you tend to find people maybe more selective polling when you're talking about medical marijuana.
Right.
It seems like a lot more people are supportive on the internet than in public opinion polls. But
right. Yeah, it's interesting. Suffolk came out with a poll. Would they have it at 65% or something, which I thought was high.
That is very high.
I thought it was high.
Wow, that surprises me.
Yeah. But then again, a couple of years ago, they got the decriminalization of marijuana passed. That kind of sailed through. So it's interesting to see the trend and the evolution here.
Yeah, and in a place like California, they couldn't even achieve that. And that, I would say, they've had medical marijuana for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Connecticut it passed pretty widely too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think we'd be the 6th or 7th state, I think, that would have it.
And what do you think about that?
I can see a little bit of both sides. I mean, I'm not sure if... Actually, I'll tell you, personally, I'm against it. I don't think we should be legalizing because I think it can be a gateway drug, and it's one more thing that we can get our kids in trouble and things like that. But at the same time, I feel the compassion for people who have these debilitating and life-threatening illnesses, and if they can get relief from it, well, then why shouldn't we be able to prescribe it to them like any other drug? So... I do see a little bit of both sides there. That if you have glaucoma, if you have terminal cancer, or these awful end-of-life diseases that are going on, why shouldn't you be able to? If it's going to ease your pain, then absolutely you should be able to do that. I feel the compassion there, but at the same time, I am concerned. And to me, it's all about how they're going to go about setting up these centers. If that can be done securely and it can just become an extension of another type of drug, like another type of prescription drug, then it's probably okay. It's probably, the sky probably won't fall. Because let's face it, you can go out and drink a bottle of vodka, and I think you're going to be a lot worse off.
Sure, absolutely.
Than if there was a little, than if there was a little bit of usage with that type of stuff. So, but again, personally, I'm against it. I don't think drugs are the way to go. I think we should try to, I believe in other cures and other therapies, and try to fix things in a different way. Not resorting to me, those are the last resort. But again, I do see both sides there. But on the right to life thing, on the euthanasia, I think that's too full of holes for me. I can't get behind that because there's too many instances, there's too many different scenarios that you could paint that would flip through a loophole that I just don't think. I mean, right now, I really believe that good doctors know when people are at end of life, and they give them the type of care where, suicide is not going to be an option. Because I mean, isn't that what doctors are supposed to do? They're trying to have you live for as much quality of life as possible. So I really don't think that one's a good solution.
Yeah, that's a dicier issue, I think.
Especially the way it's written.
Yeah, that is typically I guess personally feel euthanasia I don't necessarily have a problem with, but that is a criticism that a lot of people have raised, that I think it's 6 months to live.
Yeah. And how do you define the 6 months? And are the 6 months accurate? I mean, I know people that have been given, 6 months and they're a couple years in. Yeah.
And they're still alive, so yeah.
That's difficult. I tend to be a little bit more guarded on that. And, life is such a precious thing. So I think we have to try to guard it, and that would need more refinement for me.
I see. Yeah,
and the right to repair to me is easy. Absolutely. The consumer should have more rights, better rights. Let's not protect the big companies here. Let's make sure we try to protect the rights of the consumer.
The only thing I've heard about that is I've heard some criticism that it's supposed to be some underhanded way of securing some proprietary information for certain companies, but I honestly have...
I think it relates to the computer information inside your car, and now, just like everything else, all these other devices, your car is building information on you. Mm-hmm. And it has proprietary information that makes that car work in a certain way. So I think they're saying, well, hey, we don't want to give you our information, because then you're going to have the car operating in a different way than we specify, and I don't know. It seems a little bit of a semantic argument. I mean, if you can fix your car better, then why shouldn't you be able to fix your car better? You're paying that price, and you're still trying to control it after I pay that initial price. So I don't really think so. I mean, to me, it's caveat emptor, buyer beware. You buy it, you own it, and that includes the upside as well as the downside. So.
Yeah, I am not a car person at all, so don't call me if you have a flat tire or anything. Because I won't.
You're on foot. So sure. Yeah, likewise. So what other issues do we have here? We're in the last few minutes here, Francis. What do we got? 3?
Another issue in Malden. I guess that teen center is opening up pretty soon, right?
Teen Enrichment Center is open. They got a new coat of paint on there. Looks looking good from the outside, anyways.
Right.
We got the bike path ribbon cutting coming up.
That's true. When is that supposed to open?
I think it's a couple of weeks we're going to be having the ceremony. I think it's partially open now. People can use it now. I'm not sure if all the quote-unquote stuff is in place yet. All the equipment, all of the signage, all of the lighting. You may have noticed around town, though, the signs are popping up. If you've seen some of the signs, the bike path signs. So that's a good sign. Pardon the pun.
Let's see, what else is going on in Malden?
We got the big...
shoot something off.
125th game coming up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Soon. That's in a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's in a month.
Who do you think will win?
Oh, Malden all the way. Malden all the way.
Who won last year? Was it Malden?
Yeah, you had to ask.
I'm sorry.
I think it might have been Medford. I'm not sure though.
I was home.
I'll get emails for that. I apologize. Malden all the way. Malden all the way. I'd be interested to know actually who has the lead in the rivalry. 125 games. It's a good amount of games.
They say, I don't know how true this is, that it's one of the longest rivalries, if not the
longest. I've heard second oldest.
Yeah.
Maybe other communities tried to dispute that or whatever. So
that's interesting.
I'll stick with second oldest. I like that.
Yeah, that
has
nice,
a good ring to it. Yeah.
I wonder what caused that. That'd be nice to look into.
Yeah, it's good. Well, we have the nice new field.
Mm-hmm.
We're going from not a lot of field space to a ton of field space in a short period of time. So we've got all these new fields coming online, which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
So we got about a minute left, Chris. Anything else to wrap up here?
Not really. Just like us on Facebook and Twitter, I guess. I can put in that plug for Malden Patch, and you can always visit us at malden.patch.com, and we'll try to get you breaking news as fast as we can. All right. Sounds good. That's good. Chris, we want to thank you for coming on. Oh, thanks for having me.
Myself, I'd like to thank all my constituents out there. Please feel free to email me at any time. David@davidformalden.com or ddarkangelo@cityofmalden.org. Feel free to contact me anytime. My cell phone number is 781-789-4580. Hope you liked the show tonight. We talked about the Senior Center policies with Ron Cox from MATV, and we talked a little bit about Malden downtown and some of the other issues happening here in Malden and in Massachusetts with the elections and things like that with Chris Caesar. So I want to thank our guests for coming on. I want to be sure to thank our crack crew, Francis and Paul. Good evening, Malden.
the dock and into the zone.